Hello everybody, my name is Dark0. I'm a private Overwatch coach that has been working with Tier 2, Tier 3 teams from all around the world. The goal of this video is to answer a question that has been asked my way a lot recently. That is, how to effectively deal with this annoying GOAT composition. The GOAT composition is something that has been very popular for a while in Europe, but not so much in other regions like Korea or North America. But in Europe, it's reaching a level where a lot of teams have no answer to this, so they just join the raid and play goats because they don't know how to deal with it. So they basically mirror. I'm going to try to explain how to deal with this using a mobile composition, which is a composition based on mobility. Main tanks should be something like Winston. Main tank is Winston, Diva. Then we have the Pharah Mercy. The other picks can vary depending on the idea you have behind the hero pool of your players, or how you want to play it based on the skill set each hero have. To understand how the GOAT's composition work and how the macro game should be played, I'll jump into the micro game and specific to this afterwards. But I want to do the main thing, which is speak about macro here. This composition is something that work as a unit. They all work together, and they rely on quickly going to the point using their tankiness and their infinite sustain to reach the point and use the capture point timer as a tool to forces you to engage on them in order to contest. That being said, when you jump into them, you force a brawl, and they basically excel in this kind of brawls. So it's a composition that is very annoying because it's for the defender team seems like a race against the clock, basically. Usually, what teams do, the problem a lot of teams have is, yes, they understand that Pharah is a good counter, yet they understand that you need to poke them, but they don't test the limits of the map. The thing is, this composition is a composition that is not based on map control. This composition is a composition that is based on pure strength. As if you know that they are running this code, you immediately know that they have no map control whatsoever, which means that they cannot control any part of the map that is on the high ground, or even on the low ground if it's super far away. They only have strength where the fight happens near them, under the range, and that's something you need to understand and need to avoid constantly. Their strong point is of course the Brigitte. Brigitte is that hero that, when it was released, allowed this comp to be developed and to have a strong presence on brawls, on close quarter combat, with infinite sustain, with crowd control that shutdowns dive, and with a skill set that basically allows infinite sustain in the point. Our main goal as a mobile comp is to not let them get to the point. How do we do this? The answer is yes, poking. But what my explanation differs from what teams used to do is where. The position they usually have, is a normal one, which is around the objective. They usually put the Pharah Mercy around the pilar, because yes, Pharah Mercy, the pilar is what breaks line of sight with hit scans. To play Pharah Mercy there, it's super strong. But again, you are not playing against hit scans, you are not playing against a normal comp. Usually back in the day, you will ignore pressuring choke points that hard in a map like this, because they can be easily avoidable. With a mobile comp on attack, they can avoid choke points, they can open the map, they can focus your backline, so you want to have a more safe positioning, controlling both flanks at the same time and letting your backline to be free. And this is the main problem, because that clock race we were talking before, the moment you start effectively poking them is super late, because in a map like this, the moment you start poking with a position like this should be where they are crossing the bridge, which means that they have around 40 meters or less to reach the point. of course using all of their defensive capabilities. What I'm trying to explain here is why not start poking from the very spawn. I want to use Eichenwald because Eichenwald is a map that the Pharah can use the scouting very well, which is above these houses, right here. The moment you spot a goat composition, you should be moving forward. The Pharah Mercy combo should be moving forward, right? Goats have two different phases. The phase 1, which is the transition phase, the phase 2, which is we are using the death timer. We want you to contest into us and basically kill you. We want to exploit as much as possible the phase 1, the transition phase. What's the goal of this? The goal of this is to use your Pharah to build a barrage. You are not basically going to kill anybody, most likely. If you kill somebody, it's something that's good, but that's not the goal, right? You have kill potential, yes, but that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to farm the barrage. Because since you are airborne and they are a low ground base comp, yeah, they have the diva. The diva can be annoying, yes, but they have no kill potential over you. So the faster you build a barrage, it's just you are using that clock timer in your favor. The faster you build a barrage, the faster you can engage. They are not going to have ultimates. Yeah, they can have maybe the coalescence, because the coalescence charges super fast, but against a barrage, I mean, the difference is quite high. As I said, our main goal is to exploit phase 1, to exploit all the transition. That for that purpose, we want to push the Pharah Mercy above of them all the time, literally all the time. The moment they go to they get wiped, they go back and they go again. We do the same thing. We go back with the diva, with the Pharah on top of them. We keep poking, we keep poking, we keep poking. That's a behavior that they cannot match. They cannot do with the Pharah Mercy. They cannot do anything about running. Yes, they can use rooms to get cooldowns, like this room, for example, like this room. But that's only delaying them, and you are basically buying time if they are doing that. You are using, and also your Pharah, yeah, it gets countered a bit by the roofs, of course, but they need to get through a choke point, which is a door here. And the amount of damage a Pharah, a projectile, has in a choke point is quite high. So this is the general macro game you should be playing around goats. The Pharah player might say me something like, I feel like I'm overextending, I feel like I'm in danger, because this is not a traditional positioning for me. Trust me, they can't kill you. Of course it's a matter for the Pharah player to experience that, be there and say, hey, you are right, they cannot kill me, nor you nor the Mercy, and we are safe. Of course, it's something they need to experience, and the faster they start doing it, the better. Basically, I'll jump into the others micro game afterwards, but basically this is the idea. The idea is break the limits of your mind. Don't use the point as a defensive or as a place that marks where your defense should be built around. You have the whole control of the map. You can do anything you can do whatever you want with the map. Do it. With the Pharah is the ultimate counter to Brigitte. They cannot touch the Pharah. There is no low ground fight going on. So you have those 150 meters that they need to cover in order to build up a rush. Since they have massive HP, they are playing together. It's for you something achievable over and over again. Of course, this is something that works in most, if not all, in all control points. King's Row being a bit different because they can put a Widowmaker in the spawn, and it's kinda annoying, right, for the Pharah player. But then in King's Row, for example, you can use a Junkrat to do the same thing. The second thing is, once we move away from control points, is payload maps. This is another reason why I wanted to use Eichenwald. If they play goats in a scored map, you need to understand that again you have the whole module of the point to work with. Let's say that in this example, this will be the whole model of the point, since the starting point of the payload till the finish one. they can be pushing the payload, but you do exactly the same thing. You need to hover over their heads, start using the barrage, building the barrage, and once you have it, you can engage. The thing is, yeah, they're going to push the payload, etc. for free. No, well, not for free because they are receiving damage, but basically yes, you don't care about that. Their goal is to push the payload till here. The thing is, they don't have a flanker that can open the map or force you. Imagine if you put the payload here, 2 meters away from the point. They are super close, yeah, but they cannot touch it. They cannot touch it unless they switch off the comp, unless they put a flanker, unless they use something that allows them to go super fast, to open the map, and to put pressure on the objective. Since if they don't switch, if they keep playing the same thing, you keep playing the same thing. You keep playing the same idea, which is the moment you stop the payload, that it being here or close to point or whatever, your Pharah Mercy goes back to the spawn and starts poking again. The thing is, they need to they have covered this distance in order to deliver the payload here, right? You stop them here. Well, they need to do it again. They need to cover the same distance. Yeah, they are going to shorten it out a bit, which is going to allow them to move the payload a bit forward. But eventually, they are going to reach a point where by the time they reach the payload, you are going to have a rush all the time. Providing, of course, you are spamming from the very spawn. The amount of meters the payload covers is not important for you because of this behavior, this phase 1. They cannot put pressure on you on the phase 2 because they don't reach phase 2, basically. The behavior on a control point is a bit different. I'm going to use a Legion map. Let's call it whatever. And to explain you how and why in a King of the Hill map this is a bit different. Alright, I'm going to take, let's say, Night Garden. Sorry, Night Market. So the thing that the King of the Hill maps have different is, for the first fight, each team has a 50-50 control of the map, basically, since the map is equal for both of them. This allows goats to escape phase 1. By the time you start poking them, they are close or in the point. And they are already putting pressure. Yeah, the point is not unlocked, but they are in a close space that you can basically engage on. You cannot jump into that because you are going to die. So the thing is, well, to deal with this, the moment they are here, you need to do what is called taking angles, or what I like to call a star-based comp, which is do a star with different points, different angles. Each one of these arrows is an incoming vector of damage, which can be Diva, which can be the other DPS, Pharah, Lucio, or whatever, or Zen. You put Zen here, I don't know. You can basically say the idea is to take this display, basically, right? Of course, I'm going to draw it correctly. Zen, Diva, Winston, Pharah Mercy. The problem is, yes, they might run into the Zen, so the Zen should be moving backwards a bit. The idea is, let them get control of the point. Let them, because the first fight is their strength. They are on the point. They are playing their style, and the design of the game mode allows them to do it. So let them. Don't be in a rush. Even if they reach 99%, it doesn't matter, because what you want to do is to go. What you should be doing in the phase 1, you are doing it in the phase 2. So the punish is you are getting the point capture against you. But again, the moment you reach your power spike, which is having barrage, you go in, you go for the barrage, you play around the Pharah, you wipe them, you clean them, and then it's when the Pharah Mercy goes back to phase 1. If you do this correctly, and you have you are careful about not getting engaged in the low ground, which means that you place the Zenyatta super far away, you put your tanks on the high ground. I'll speak about this in the micro section. You should not have any problem about not letting them get the point anytime soon. The percentage they are going to achieve in the first fight, that's the maximum percentage they should be taking. And that's it. Of course, this sounds easier said than done, but it's a matter of you breaking the traditional limits. It's a matter of using the whole map. It's a matter of fighting or playing in an areas that we normally don't play because we get punished for it. The goat's composition is not a composition that's going to punish you for an overextension per se. It's going to punish you the moment you don't poke enough, so they get to the point, they make the point a stronghold, and you need to jump into them or contest into them. So that's where you have problems, and that is where they are going to punish you. But the rest of the phase 1, it's for you to exploit. Jumping into the micro game system, or into the micro game, as I told before, the mobile comp uses the high ground. This is a composition. The Goats comp is using the low ground. So as for duties, the Winston player it should be playing always around the high grounds. Always playing around the high grounds, not engaging at all. Winston has nothing to do with the Goats comp. The only duty Winston has, or rather he has 2 duties. The first one, if they switch off Goats, not off Goats, but they change a pick, let's say the D.Va is not countering well the Pharah, so we go for a McCree. The McCree has 2 options, to either play with the Death Ball or to play alone. If he plays alone, this is where Winston comes into play, isolating the McCree and killing him. If he plays with the Death Ball, then the Hitscan is going to play in a space that he's not comfortable in. And I mean, the Winston has nothing to do with that, but the Hitscan is going to be uncomfortable, to say the least. The other duty is to act as a distraction where your Pharah has a barrage, which means that you basically have nothing to do with the Goats comp. You are just chilling on your high ground, dealing a bit of cheap damage if you can from the safety of your high ground. And the moment they have a barrage, you go in and you act as a distraction, such as, hey, I'm here, kill me. Because the Goats comp is a comp that is based on picking one target and trying to one-shot him. They are not good at splitting damage because they lose a lot of damage, they lose a lot of tools, so that's what you want. You're most likely, if you do it correctly, you should not die, because the barrage is going to obliterate them. D.Va is a character that basically does the same thing as Winston. You are on the high ground dealing cheap damage. You are here we go. You are basically matrixing every now and then to get rid of fire strikes or orbs from Moira, something that you can hit, the damage from the other D.Va, etc. Another thing D.Va does is to of course matrix the barrage. They don't do that much damage as a projectile, but still saving the life of your Pharah is something that has priority. Again, you are on the high ground. You can be on the low ground depending if you are playing with a Junkrat or not. If you're playing with a Junkrat, you can use the D.Va as a bait. Since, as I said before, the Goats comp rely on locking down one target and one-shotting it. You can use the D.Va since it has 600 HP and 200 armor. I mean 400 HP and 200 armor. It's hard for them to one-shot it, and it allows the Junkrat to have a spam point, which is just a spam on top of the D.Va. If you're playing with a Hanzo, for example, that's not required. Again, you should not be... You kind of feel... You might feel a bit useless, but I mean, this is only about discipline. The only way you're going to beat goats like this is relying on discipline. Again, if they're playing a hit scan, you can go with your Winston, isolate and kill the target that's alone, and afterwards move with the team. If you kill one target with goats, and I'm really serious about this, and unless it's a Brigitte, be careful, okay? Because Brigitte can 1v2 tanks, Brigitte can basically one-shot a squishish. So it's a lot of pressure Brigitte puts on to dive. So be respectful about that and let the Pharah do his job. Or another thing you might be doing is if they switch the Sombra to Sombra rather from Sarja, the Sarja deals a lot of damage in goats, but also has the Graviton Surge, which acts as an enabler, combo enabler. Sorry. The function Sombra does is basically the same thing, wider. The EMP has a wider area than the Graviton, so it's basically an enabler too. If you are facing a Sombra, you should be spamming, since you don't have clips, spamming all the way in choke points indoors to a spot where the Sombra is and force the recall, or the translocator rather. I'm sorry, my voice is kind of cracking at this point. Moving forward, we have the Pharah. The Pharah, as I said, is your strong point, like your strongest hero. Pharah should be moving forward, doing all the phase 1 damage, poke, etc. Again, you don't want to kill anybody. If you kill somebody, that's a gift for sure. But the main goal is to build a barrage, so you should be aiming to deal and burn resources, such as bubbles, such as shields from Brigitte, the Fate from Moira, etc. You are always playing on the air. If you need to barrage, you don't do it closely to them, because they can, of course, put a shield on you or put something on, basically shut you down. Since they have really big hitboxes, you can take a bit of high. You can take like 20 meters, 15 meters. It's going to be hard for them to deal with you, and you are going to still deal a massive amount of damage. If you want to barrage closely, you can do that, but you need to instantly pop 1 or 2 people, a squishes one, like a Brigitte or a Moira, right? Like instantly. Otherwise, you are not going to win the fight. If you're playing if they are rather playing in a room, you should be hovering over the. Let's say they are playing whatever in this room, right? You should be hovering over the entrance, and when they speed boost through that door, you use your E to keep momentum and basically keep up with the speed boost. Mercy is the Mercy job should be always damage boost you. As long as your tanks have the discipline to not commit, to not do anything, to basically just do cheap damage and avoid damage, incoming damage into your team, your main healer should not be healing anything. Your main healer should be damage boosting the Pharah and helping the Pharah build the barrage as soon as possible. Yes, your tanks might have residual incoming damage like a Diva, like something like that. If they do, you have another healer. That's his job, to heal that residual damage. So you should be not worrying about where your tanks are, because your only objective is to help Pharah deal his job, deal his damage, and basically try to avoid as much as possible the Diva. If they are smart, they are going to focus you instead of the Pharah. Also, be wary about the Coalescence. The Coalescence is the only reliable tool goats have in order to take a Pharah Mercy down out of the sky. So be aware of that. The second DPS can be basically someone between Sombra. Right now Sombra is really good because the EMP basically gives you the fight. If you EMP them, of course your tanks can go in and clean up. Your Pharah is going to clean up. I mean, the EMP is super strong. Sombra's job should be dealing with the same thing. The moment they go out of the spawn, Sombra should be charging the EMP, looking for a tank, dealing a lot of damage, going back in again, etc. It's the same thing. If you play with the Hanzo, the Hanzo should be taking high ground or being far away, dealing spam damage on choke points, angles, etc. If you play with the Junkrat, same thing about choke points, etc. The idea of the second DPS is to establish crossfire. If they have a Pharah into the air dealing damage, they need to use all the defensive tools, shield, matrix, etc. to stop the Pharah from dealing damage. Then is when the second DPS comes in, like this, and establish crossfire. So they need to switch between protecting from one DPS or from the other. That's basically all of your job. The point is deal a lot of damage, poke all the way around until they reach the point. By the time they reach the point, the tool you need yes or yes is the barrage. Be in between barrages, if you are not cleaning up with the barrage, you have the second DPS ultimate, which can be of course if it's Sombra, you can engage with the EMP and you clean them. But if it's a dragon, you can use the dragon and say, hey, we are not going to use the barrage. Hopefully this fight, we are going to dragon a choke point, we are going to tire, etc. But the position and the general vector of damage should be something like that, crossfire. And then for the last pick, you have Sen or you have Ana. I really like to run Ana because I want the Ana to set up aggressive nades. That the aggressive nade is one of the best counters against Brigitte. Yes, it's kind of difficult because there is a lot of barriers. There is a matrix, so it's difficult for you to land the nade. But again, they should be worrying about the Pharah. If Pharah is doing his job, it's going to be easier for you. The other thing is the Sen. The Sen is a hero that always hacks the high ground against goats, because otherwise, unless of course it's the first fight, if you are not able to put the Sen on the high ground, you should be putting the Sen as far as possible. So you try to replicate the phase stages, right? They need to transition into the Sen, and you need to win the fight before they reach the Sen. It's kind of annoying, yes, but it is what it is. This is the problem the goats have. So you should put in the Sen in a high ground or super far away. The Sen at this point is basically a spammer, but also a ore bot. The moment you receive incoming damage, a bit on your tanks, there you go, the harmony. The moment the goats go through a door, etc., you spamming, right clicking and trying to discord. If possible, try to discord squishy heroes, because if the moment you discord somebody and they receive a damage boosted rocket, that's a one shot for the Pharah. So discording the Lucio, for example, discording the Moira, something that is going to give the Pharah a pick. And basically, this is it. It's at the beginning, it's going to be hard for you, because it requires to get out of what you usually do, explore the map in a way that you usually don't do. But this is a way of effectively and reliably dealing with the goats comp. Test it on scrims. You remember to use the scrims to train stuff, and I guarantee that this is going to help you. It's a very easy way and reliable way to dealing with goats. Don't mind because this is about also being a bit unlucky. If you have a bad barrage, or if you don't have the barrage in time, or don't panic. Stick to the discipline of this macro game and micro game, and don't worry too much. Right? If you fail 1 or 2 times, eventually you are going to get good at this, and it's going to work. Hopefully this helps you, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.